Advanced Studio Classroom is on the air. Free! That word gets your attention. Find out exactly what's free next. Hello everyone, welcome back to Advanced Studio Classroom. My name is Brandon. We continue our travel article. It is July 2nd. The title of our article is Cheapo Travel. And we have two people in the studio who love to travel. Welcome back, Josh and Pauline.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be back.
Thank you, Brandon. We enjoy talking about travel, and we like doing it even more.
Yeah. Well, tell us about one of your favorite trips of all time. I don't know if you can do that. I have a hard time putting those kinds of things into a list, but I like to say one of your favorite trips of all time. Do you have such a trip, Josh?
Oh, it's really difficult to compare the different styles of trips. So we've had some really great scuba diving trips, and we've had some great trips to national parks. We've had some great trips in order to go to cities and to culture. So they're all great in their own way. But I do remember one summer when I took a trip, basically sort of backpacking around Europe. And so I was able to take a long period of time where I just traveled from place to place to place to place. And that was really a fantastic time.
All right. Pauline, do you have one trip in particular that stands out?
I mean, I echo what Josh says. There's so many, and it's hard to pick. One of the most amazing trips I had was I had a really good friend from Mexico who invited me and my brother down to Mexico to help celebrate his niece's quinceañera, which is a big, huge party for a girl's 15th birthday. We got to be there to celebrate with that community and see how that was done. It was just an incredible cultural experience to be surrounded by that. And then he took us to meet his grandma, who was way out in the country, just in the middle of nowhere. We had to walk up and down a river valley to get to this little shack in the middle of the the countryside and meet her. And that was one of the most amazing cultural experiences of my life, getting that inside picture of it. And as it turned out, it was also a very cheap trip because it was just being with a family and just doing life with them. It wasn't about going to special sites. It was about being a part of that culture. And that was truly one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
Now, some of those things make me, want to ask a question. Now, of course, everybody most people like traveling to some extent, but it seems to me that both you, Josh and Pauline, really like it. So what intrigues you about traveling? What is it in particular? Is it you're curious? Is it culture? Is it what exactly is it that makes you so interested in traveling?
I think it's a little of all of that, right? I mean, there's the cultural piece that I've always found really interesting, learning other languages and cultures and seeing the foods that they eat and the way they do life is always amazing. I'm also drawn to nature. I love seeing creatures in wildlife, getting to just see where they're at in their natural habitat. So that has also pushed me to travel to new places and go out because I want to see manta rays and monkeys and sloths and all of these amazing creatures that God has put on the planet on all different parts and corners of the world, and I want to see them.
Right. So I think, curiosity, the desire to learn drives a lot of that, it sounds like. And how about you, Josh?
So all of the above, really.
Yeah.
Also, I really find that on this planet, there's just an amazing variety of nature, culture, history, settings, and really it feels like we're at a fortunate time of human history where being able to go to those places, visit those things, learn about those people, listen to different languages and different ideas is incredibly easy compared to what it used to be. It used to take literally months to take a ship to go across the ocean, and now you can do it over the course of a day. So
remember that the next time your flight is delayed.
That's right, exactly. So it seems a shame not to take advantage of those kind of developments that really open up the world to you.
All right. Really good stuff. Thank you all for sharing that. Well, we are on page 11. We're going to start off today back in the USA in Los Angeles. So join us for our first reading on page 11.
The Getty, Los Angeles, USA. This place is so huge, you must take a tram just from the parking garage to the top. But that's part of the fun. The collection features Greek and Roman antiquities. But they also have Van Gogh's irises and some lovely Monets. If you have a choice, go on a clear day because you can see the ocean and all the way to Catalina Island from the rooftop gardens, which are an attraction in themselves.
All right, we are in LA and we're visiting a place called the Getty. And apparently this is a huge place. I have never been to the Getty. I have been to Los Angeles briefly, but I didn't do a whole lot there besides eat at In-N-Out. So how about you two? Have you been to Los Angeles, Pauline?
I have been only when I was really young. We did a family trip out to all the way down the western coast of the United States, and my great uncle lived in LA. So I know we stayed a couple days there. We didn't go to the Getty. We were probably too young.
Yeah.
I'm also the oldest of 4 kids, and I know I was young, so my youngest brother must have been quite young. So I'm sure they didn't want a bunch of little kids running around a fancy museum.
Sure.
That probably did not sound like fun to my parents and probably would not have been the right fit for us as kids. But now I would love to go back and see it.
All right. Josh, how about you?
So I've been to a lot of places in California, but California is huge, right? It's really big. I've been to LA a few times on my travels through. Been to Hollywood, but I have not been to sort of the greater LA area, and I certainly have not been to the Getty, but now sort of looking that this is available, it'd be very interesting to see if I could spend some time visiting there. Maybe my next time in a long layover at LAX.
Yeah, well, I hope it's really long because this place is huge. You need to even take a tram just to get from the parking garage to the top, and a tram is just a train that you're going to take, and that helps you to get around. And that's part of the fun of all of this. Now, what can you do there? Well, there's a collection there that features Greek and Roman antiquities. And an antiquity is just an object that was created a really long time ago, right? And that's expected to be seen in a museum, right?
That's right. I'm actually not quite sure what the difference between an antiquity and an antique is. Does anybody else know?
Well, an antique,
question.
So an antique could be something that was made even 100 years ago. But an antiquity is from
even older.
The classic Greek and Roman period.
So it's really, really old.
Oh, see, even I'm learning some new English.
Yes, me too. That's a really good question, Pauline. And you can see paintings there, ones from Van Gogh and even some Monet paintings there. And they have art. They have European and American art, and they have art from medieval times to the present. And there's also architecture, where you can see modern design. There are gardens, open spaces, and you can see views of the city of Los Angeles. And they have gardens. We even have a picture there of kind of this artsy garden piece there at the Getty on page 11. And so there are several gardens at the Getty, including the Central Garden, and it sounds like a lot to do. Pauline.
Yeah, it really does. It sounds like you could definitely spend a full day there, if not more. And it's always nice to hear that you can spend a full day of activities for free.
That's right. And you can even see the ocean, right? And
on a clear day, anyway.
Right, all the way to Catalina Island from the rooftop gardens, which are an attraction in and of themselves. And so lots to do, lots to see while you are in LA. Well, next we are going to the other side of the United States. We're going to the city of New York. And we're going to talk about the Staten Island Ferry. So join us for our next reading.
Statue of Liberty from the Staten Island Ferry, New York City, USA. Yes, You can pay to take a harbor tour and see the Statue of Liberty up close. But why not just hop on the Staten Island Ferry? It will take you past the famous statue in the harbor and give you a 25-minute harbor tour between Manhattan and Staten Island. The ferry runs all day and night, 7 days a week. National Museum of Ireland, Dublin and Mayo, Ireland. Want to see bog bodies, gold ornaments, Viking artifacts, and learn about rural Irish life? All 4 branches of this museum are free to visit, including museums devoted to archaeology, natural history, decorative arts and history, and country life. The Museum of Country Life in Turlough Park, Mayo, is devoted to Irish rural traditions, while the Natural History Museum is especially noted for its collection of insects.
All right, we are in the city of New York. Maybe many of you have visited, and most people are familiar with the Statue of Liberty. And you can actually see this for free if you take the Staten Island Ferry. Josh, Pauline, you've both visited New York, is that correct?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Well, I've been to New York State, but not New York City.
All right. And Josh?
And I've been to New York City a number of times, but not really actually the rest of New York State.
All right. I have also been to New York City a couple of times. I've seen the Statue of Liberty from a distance, but I have not been on this ferry. Josh, did you take the Staten Island Ferry while in New York?
So I did not realize that the Staten Island Ferry was free, or else that would have been one of the things that I had done in New York. New York is a fantastic place. But there are a lot of ways to spend money in New York. Mm-hmm. But if you can find ways in order to do great things for free, and there are a lot of great things you can do in New York, just going to Central Park, for example, right? That doesn't cost any money. But if you can find plenty of ways in order to enjoy New York without spending money, I think you will be what we call ahead of the game.
I almost took this ferry. A friend suggested it and we were going to do it, and for some reason we didn't. I wish we would have so I could talk about it with all of you, but I didn't do that. But there are other free things like the Brooklyn Bridge. Of course, you can just walk on that. And Central Park, there are other free things besides this, but we are focusing on this because it gives you a great view of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, I love this. I just really enjoy ferry rides in general. If I get a chance when I'm traveling and I hear there's somewhere to go via ferry, I will always take it. I always expect it's going to cost something, but ferry tends to be a little less expensive than other forms of transportation. So I always think of it as a fairly cost-effective way to do some interesting travel, to get a different view of the area that you're at and be outdoors. And especially in New York, getting to see the Statue of Liberty is an extra bonus. Yeah. So I would definitely do this. I can't believe it's free.
Right. Now, some ferry rides can be a little bumpy, and that's not fun, but I don't think this one would be that way. Looks like the waters are pretty calm, but it will take you past the famous statue in the harbor and give you a 25-minute harbor tour between Manhattan and Staten Island, and it runs all day and night, 7 days a week. And so sounds like it's very accessible, right? Mm-hmm. So a great way to see the Statue of Liberty for free, and you get a nice view of that. So be sure to check that out while you are in New York. Before we leave New York, Josh, give us one of your favorite things about visiting the city.
Oh, New York has so many different things to offer. It's really hard to just say one thing. So one of the great things about New York is all of the great parks. So not just Central Park, but there are many, 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 many parks all throughout New York City. And they're all usually very interesting. And people are always using the park in order to do something. So a free performance, or music, or theater, or even street performers.
There you go. Lots to do. Just go to the park. All right. Where are we heading off next?
Well, we're going to Ireland.
Ooh, that sounds like a great place to go. I've never been there. Let's find out what is free in Ireland right now. We're talking about the National Museum of Ireland. And, there's a lot going on here. They have 4 different branches, and they're all free to visit. They start off talking about something fascinating to me. It gets my attention. I'm like, I think I want to see that. I'm not sure. They're called bog bodies, Josh.
Yeah, so there are areas that are peat bogs. So this is an area where compressed layers of vegetation have created a thick peat, and that peat is used for many different things. But one of the things that also happens is that people who have been placed into the peat or have died while on the peat have sunk into it, and their remains have been naturally preserved or mummified.
So interesting.
Wow.
I didn't know this was a thing until this article.
didn't
I'd
either.
never heard of it.
That's amazing. All right, so you can see bog bodies and gold ornaments. That's just a funny thing. Bog bodies to gold ornaments.
Right, it's a funny combination.
Yeah.
Right, and then sometimes what happens is the jewelry and the items that people are wearing while they're in the peat, they also get preserved. So you're able to see a lot of the ancient jewelry that's still in pretty good condition.
It sounds like you know a lot about this, Josh. Have you been to this area or have seen a bog body or bog bodies?
I have not, but so my mother's side of the family is very Irish, so I've always been interested in going back to Ireland in order to visit kind of like their sort of family roots, but I've not had the fortune to be to Ireland yet.
All right. And you can also see Viking artifacts, Pauline.
Yeah, I think that'd be very interesting. I imagine those helmets with the horns coming out of them.
Yeah.
That's all I can really think of when I think about Vikings. I'm sure there's other artifacts as well, but that's what I imagine.
That's right. And you can learn about rural Irish life. There's a museum that we'll talk about in a moment that focuses on just that. So as I said before, there are 4 branches of this museum, and they're all free to visit. And that includes museums devoted to archaeology, natural history, decorative arts and history, and country life. And they have this country life museum there. It's in a separate area. We have on the map there 2 different areas that we're looking at. They're not both marked. One, Dublin is marked. And we have this other area called Mayo, Ireland, where this Country Life Museum is. And that is in the western part of Ireland. And so it's devoted to Irish rural traditions. And there are, various things that you can see there. You can explore the museum's sports, leisure, music, and education artifacts. You can even see furniture and woodwork artifacts, agriculture artifacts. You can even see boats there. So I don't normally think, I grew up in the country, so I don't think of going to a museum to learn about country life, but I'm not from Ireland. So, there are many things that you can go and see there, apparently.
Of course, country life goes back a lot longer in Ireland than it does in the United
That's
States,
true.
right? When we
Yes.
think country life, we're still talking about Western immigrants to the United States. So
Yes.
our history of country life in the United States is not as rich and long
Very
as it is in
limited.
Ireland.
Yes.
Although it's not unheard of in some museums in order to do sort of exhibits on country life, where it would be more the pioneer life, right? Where they sort of display
That's a good point.
the different modes of transportation and the tools and the things that they used in order to explore the Western United States.
That's a good point. Well, actually, the branch that I would be the most interested in is the Natural History Museum because it's especially noted for its collection of insects. And some of you listeners may know that Josh and I are both really interested in entomology, the study of insects, specifically butterflies, because Josh's family has a butterfly garden that we both worked at for many years.
Right.
But insects in general, we're both fascinated by. So I would love to see their display and their collection of insects.
Looks like they have something for everyone. There's 4 sections. I'm sure you'll find something that you like. And the good news is, of course, it's free. Well, next we're going back to the U.S. We've been in the U.S. a lot over the past couple of days. Our last stop for this article is the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. It sounds like a good place to end. And we'll have our final reading and come back and discuss more.
Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco, USA. Did you know you can walk or bike across this 1.7-mile bridge across San Francisco Bay? If you walk the entire length, you end up in the charming town of Sausalito. A new overlook called Strauss Plaza provides a visitor center and great overlooks. But if you don't want to pay to park, head down Marine Drive on the Presidio, and you'll find amazing views of the bridge at the bottom at Fort Point National Historic Site.
Well, this is an iconic bridge, right? You see that picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, and you know what it is, right? I've never been there, but I've seen the picture many, many times. Panelists, have either of you been there, Josh, Pauline?
We have both together been to San Francisco and seen the Golden Gate Bridge. We didn't go across it, at least we didn't together. I don't know if Josh ever has, but we've definitely been in the park that's right by it.
All right.
So I didn't walk across the bridge, but I have a friend who lives a little bit north of San Francisco, and so I would take the bus quite often, actually, from the airport up and to visit him, and we would go across the bridge each time.
All right, and it's a place that you recommend going?
Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful area. The park there is lovely. San Francisco is great.
Right, the weather there is fantastic, right?
Unless it's not.
Unless it's not.
So there are some times in San Francisco where it'll be very foggy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be windy and cold, but usually it's fairly mild.
Yeah.
It doesn't get snowy, it doesn't freeze. And when it's a nice, mild, sunny day, you're right, the weather there is fantastic. And going down to this area is really very pretty.
So you can walk across the bridge, you can bike across it, or of course you can drive across it. And yeah.
I just want to point out, though, if you're walking across the bridge, it's 1.7 miles, which is a pretty good walk. And it can get a little bit windy up there. So if you're planning on doing this walk, you want to make sure that you have some sort of windbreaker.
Very good point. So it's a 1.7 mile walk across the bridge and across the San Francisco Bay. So if you walk the entire length, you end up in this charming little town. Now, did you all visit this town as well? Do you remember that?
So I've not been to Sausalito, but I've driven through Sausalito, like I said, on the bus a number of times. And it is a very pretty little area and a lot of little marinas and a lot of little sort of what we call quaint cafes and shops.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, then you can go to an overlook, and which is what, Pauline?
That is called Strauss Plaza, or Plaza, depending on how you pronounce it, which has a visitor center. And, of course, the whole point is these great overlooks, being able to look across and see the beautiful bay with that iconic bridge.
That's right. And then if you don't want to pay to park, you can head down to Marine Drive. And this is a specific park that we're talking about. And what is that called, Josh?
The Presidio.
All right, and that's a national park site at the Golden Gate Bridge. And that's good to know. You're not just going to see the bridge, but you can also visit this park, which adds to the fun. And there are amazing views of the bridge at the bottom there when you get to the park. And it talks about the Fort Point National Historic Site that you can visit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the park is really fun. I suggest bring a kite if it's windy, or bring a Frisbee. It's a really nice park to just hang out with and do a little recreation out there and enjoy watching a lot of the residents there with their dogs or going on a run. It's just a really nice area.
All right. It sounds great for a summertime destination. Well, we've been talking about many different places that are free. They don't charge you anything, no entrance fee. So I'm wondering, panelists, do you know of any other places that we haven't mentioned in this article that you would like to suggest that, hey, this is a good place to go and doesn't cost anything? Pauline, any ideas?
Sure. Well, of course, Taiwan has lots of them. There's so many places you can go. For example, in Taipei, there's Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall with the beautiful theaters on either side, the concert hall and the theater.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful area to go and take pictures and just enjoy. There's beautiful parks. The An Park is a beautiful park in Taipei. Outside of Taipei is, for example, one of our favorite places we went to in our first year here was going down south and seeing the butterfly migration that happens in the south over the winter. That was a free place to go and visit. This natural phenomenon that happens. That was really amazing. So those are some Taiwan spots.
All right.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of our listeners are aware of this, but Pauline and I also keep a blog about some of the places that we go, and we really do enjoy visiting places that are beautiful and that you don't have to pay a lot of money for. So you can always check out our blog at www.yesyoucan.info. But I also wanted to mention some things that happen in other areas that aren't really covered by the article that are sort of similar. And one of those are art galleries.
Yeah.
So art galleries are usually galleries that sell art, But there will be certain days of the month where they will usually host new openings or parties where they want people to see the new art that's going up. And those are usually always free. And sometimes they have maybe some complimentary drinks or some food. So you can really enjoy seeing some local artists without having to pay any money.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking something we didn't talk about in any of these either is just free parks. Well, parks we talked about, but specifically beaches. So Josh and I love to go diving, but diving is not free. It's rather expensive.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it doesn't cost a lot of money to buy some snorkeling equipment and then just go to an area where you can go snorkeling. So we've done that in Japan and in some other areas of Asia, but also in Taiwan. When Josh mentioned the blog, that reminded me that one of our favorite day trips we've done is just taking the bus out to Bitojiao, which is a super cheap bus trip with our own snorkel gear. Everything, getting there was the only cost, and that was very, very minimal. And then we got to go and have this amazing day out on the water for free. And then came back home.
Awesome. Well, there are many free spots, and especially when you're talking about going out in nature, right? And so we don't always have to pay something in order to have a good time. And so think about maybe this summer, some free spots you can go in maybe your community or in other parts of the world. And we hope that this article has maybe helped, bring some interest and spotlight on areas that are free. Regardless of whether it's free or not, we hope that you're able to have some fun this summer and take a vacation, take a rest, enjoy time with family. We all hope to do that, and so we hope that you're able to do that as well. And we also hope that you'll check out all of our Topic Talks videos this month. Just scan the QR code there at the top of each article or at the beginning of each article, and you can see all of those videos. And we would love to hear from you about your summer travels or about some of our articles this month. Write into us at advanced@studioclassroom.com. And you never know, maybe your comment will end up on our feedback page in the magazine. Well, thank you, panelists, for joining us, and we thank you for sharing all these insights about your travels. And we thank all of you for joining us as well, and we hope that you will join us for each article this month in Advanced Magazine. Until next time, this is Brandon.
I'm Pauline.
And this is Josh.
Saying goodbye.
Goodbye.